Today's episode is sponsored by the NBA and their quest to advance the game of basketball, grow the community, and impact culture. The league celebrates its teams, players, and fans across the past, the present, and the future as part of its 75th anniversary season. That's Game highlights pivotal moments on court and beyond, from iconic plays in arenas to the impact players have in the community. That's the NBA. That's Game. You know, like in the NBA playoffs, second round, Game 7. Bucks Nets. KD catches that thing. He turns around against PJ Tucker. He puts up a three. Boom. Sending the Bucks home, except his toes were on the line. The toes were on the line. The Bucks get a chance in overtime and extra time, and they win it, and they go on to win the NBA championship. That's the NBA. That's Game. This is more than just basketball. It's what connects us all and keeps us coming back for more. That's the NBA. That's Game, baby.
Welcome to the Saturday Slammin' Jam, hosted by Andrew Schlecht with Alex Spears.
How about we can just watch basketball?
That's a man's jam!
I like that idea.
Live from Oklahoma.
Click.
With questions and participants from all around the world.
Anthony Edwards! Put that on a poster.
Whether you're flipping your flapjacks, tending to your yard, or just sipping your coffee, get ready, sit back, relax. It's the Saturday Slammin' Jam.
Fact is, I missed this shot. I walk away. I'm still a chump.
Here's Andrew.
Welcome to the Saturday Slammin' Jam on a Friday. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. Go to theathletic.com/NBA show and get The Athletic for half price. You have to do it. We've got Media Day right around the corner for all the teams. All the guys are coming back. We have Instagram posts of Westbrook and LeBron together wearing the purple and gold. So you gotta go check that out. With me, as always, on our show is my good friend Alex Spears. Alex, what's up?
What's up, Andrew? Still in the off season.
Still here. So September 16th is the day we're recording, and not a lot of news.
As you are about to hear from my most interesting thing of the week. So, one of the things I've been most interested over this past year and have been wrestling with is how to contextualize the dramatic increase in offensive efficiency we've seen across the league in recent seasons.
Yeah.
We talked about this a few months ago when we were discussing the Cavs and how Colin Sexton and Darius Garland both put up incredible historical statistical seasons given their age. Mm-hmm. But it's not just Sexton. It's young players across the league who are putting up stat lines that go toe-to-toe with the all-time greats. So just some examples. Take De'Aaron Fox, for instance. Last year, Fox put up 25-7 in his age 23 season. Now, I'm not adding in any crazy stat qualifiers, just 25 points a game, 7 assists per game, age 23. And maybe that stat line doesn't sound too crazy, but there have only been 6 other players that have done that in NBA history by the age of 23. And their names are Oscar, LeBron, Luka, Trey, Tiny Archibald, and Derrick Rose, all either in the Hall of Fame or likely to be, other than Rose, whose career was derailed by injury. What about Michael Porter Jr.? He put up 19-7 on 54% shooting at age 22. Again, not the craziest stat line, 19.7 rebounds per game, 54% shooting. It's only been done by 14 other players, though, in NBA history by age 22. And he's in the company of guys like Shaq, Bob McAdoo, Amare, Dwight, Tim Duncan, Charles Barkley, Chris Webber, Blake Griffin, along with other young guys who are putting up historical numbers like Kat, Zion, and John Collins, who has hit those marks twice before the age of 23. What about Andrew? Thunder guy, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He averaged 23 points, 5 assists, shooting 50% from the field at the age of 22. You know what? For this one, let's expand it to age 25, okay? All you got to do is average 23 points per game, 5 assists per game, shooting 50% from the field. By age of 25, Shai's only 22. Who's done that? MJ, KD, LeBron, Oscar, Jokic, Giannis, Clyde Drexler, Chris Mullin, and Chris Webber. All current Hall of Famers or future Hall of Famers. Now, I find all of these statistical comparisons interesting because, one, they're an easy way to convince someone that the young player on your team is already on the path to being an all-time great.
Oh, yeah.
But two, I think they are some of the best examples we have of the current NBA age that we're living through. We are in an age of juice stats. It's never been easier to score in the NBA than it is today. So, and as a result, we are getting all-time seasons from multiple players every single year. And personally, as someone who isn't able to watch every single team every night, these incredible statistical seasons have made it increasingly difficult to form an opinion and compare the young players in the game. I think Colin Sexton is like the perfect example, because I think like around the league, there's almost like a neutral or negative opinion of Colin Sexton. Like when people talk about him, they think, oh, he's just a chuck or whatever. But it's like you look at his stats and he's not just like a good scorer. He's like a historically great scorer. Like maybe he has issues defensively. Maybe he doesn't shoot as many threes as you would hope for. But like he's an insane scorer. And so it's really hard to judge your opinion on these players, because like in a world where every young player looks like an all-time great statistically, how can you be down on any of these guys? And on the flip side, we're seeing more and more historical anomalies going the other way too. So as an example, during the playoffs this year, we had some really horrendous shooting lines. Drew Holiday shot 4 of 20 in the finals. Embiid shot 4 of 20 in the Eastern Conference semi game. Jimmy Butler shot 4 of 22 in the first round. Bad shooting nights, so what? That happens all the time, right? Well, actually, these games aren't that common. There have only been 48 instances of a player taking at least 20 shots in a playoff game and shooting less than 20%. In the past 20 years, it's only happened 11 times, and 7 of those games have occurred in the last 3 seasons. The point being that the way the game is being played now is leading to these statistical extremes, both good and bad, which leads me to the actual thing I want to talk about today. This was all a ruse, Andrew.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. To be perfectly honest, everything I just talked about was all just an excuse to talk about a player I learned about a few months ago that I've been waiting to share with our Slam and Jam listeners. I was waiting for the right moment, and what better time than the off season? Because as I was researching the worst shooting games in NBA playoff history, shout out to StatHead, one name kept popping up. Remember how there were 48 games in NBA playoff history where a player took 20 or more shots and shot less than 20%? Would you believe there is a player in NBA history that accounted for 6 of those games? That's right. I am, of course, talking about Jumpin' Joe Fulks.
Wow.
Joe Fulks, born in 1921. He entered the NBA at age 25 after serving as a Marine in World War II and attending Murray State, also the alma mater of Ja Morant campaign. Fulks played for the Philadelphia Warriors and was one of the greatest scorers of his generation. He won the league's first scoring title, set numerous single-game records, including scoring 63 points in a game in
First scoring title?
Yes, now this was the BAA, which was the predecessor to the NBA. But yes, he was the first scoring title. He scored 63 points in a game in 1949, a record that wouldn't be broken for a decade when Elgin Baylor scored 64. He is widely considered one of the pioneers of the modern jump shot and was elected into the Basketball Hall of Fame in 1978. But here's the interesting part, because while Jumpin' Joe Fulks was indeed one of the greatest scorers of his time, he was not a model of efficiency, shooting 30% from the field for his career. He didn't care about efficiency. Andrew, he wasn't worried about PER or Raptor or real plus minus.
He won the scoring title shooting 30% from the field. How many shots is he taking?
Well, Andrew, we're getting to that.
Okay.
Because this guy was a hooper, Andrew. He was there to hoop, and Jumpin' Joe Fulks never hooped as much as he did in the 1948 semifinals when the Philadelphia Warriors played the St. Louis Bombers. Remember how I said that Joe had 6 of those playoff games in NBA history where a player took 20 shots while shooting under 20% in the playoffs? Well, 3 of those games occurred in one series. Game 1, Jumpin' Joe shoots 6 for 38 in a 2-point loss to the Bombers. The next game, though, Game 2, Jumpin' Joe comes back, shoots 7 for 36 in a 1-point win that evened the series.
Woo!
Now, the Warriors would win Game 3 in a blowout, which led to Game 4, where Jumpin' Joe would put up perhaps the greatest shooting line in NBA playoff history. In a 5-point loss to the Bombers, Jumpin' Joe Fulks took 46 shots and made 8 of them. 8 for 46. Russell Westbrook wishes he had the green light that Jumpin' Joe Fulks did back in 1948. Now, Game 4, however, was a turning point for Joe. He shot above 20% in each of the next 3 games, including a respectable 6 for 19. He held back in Game 7, a win that would send the Warriors to the 1948 finals, where they eventually lost to the Baltimore Bullets in 6. As I mentioned earlier, Joe would go on to become a Basketball Hall of Famer posthumously, and to this day, he holds the records for most missed field goals in a game, both for the regular season and the playoffs. The regular season record will likely never be broken. In a March 1948 game against the Providence Steamrollers, Joe Fulks missed 42 shots in a single game. 42! He missed 42 shots in a single game. We talk about how Wilt Chamberlain has like all the crazy records.
Yeah.
And he is second. Wilt Chamberlain is second on this record. But Joe Fulks, number 1, probably for all time.
Spell the last name real quick.
Fulks.
Okay, yeah.
No one in NBA history exemplifies the shoot your shot motto better than Jumpin' Joe Fulks. And hopefully a few more people will now have learned about this legend and his memory will live on.
Unbelievable. He is the great-great-grandfather of J.R. Smith. I heard that. I heard that's true.
Wait, what?
No, not true at all.
Oh, that would blow my mind.
Oh, man, that's incredible. That is incredible off-season stats right there. And hopefully we someday may, if anybody is going to break that record, maybe it's somebody on the Thunder this year.
Maybe. I mean, this is like the real use case for StatHead, in my opinion, because you like look at all these stats and then you sort it by date, and all of a sudden you see this guy who in a week span went something like 20 for 120 or something.
Yeah.
It was just absurd, and I would have never known about him otherwise. Turns out he's a Hall of Famer.
Oh, man. Everybody's Hall of Famer from what I can tell. But, yeah. That's great, man. What a great stat. That's amazing. So 2 weeks ago, I did Western Conference players to watch for that could break out, possible breakout candidates. And so I decided to go to the Eastern Conference, and I found it to be a lot more difficult in the Eastern Conference. So most of these guys that I've chosen, it's all about opportunity, or 2 of them, Alex, not even opportunity, but potential opportunity that they could have. So my first one is Aaron Nesmith, a wing for the Boston Celtics.
Okay.
And the case for Nesmith is, one, like, he didn't play a whole lot last year, only 669 minutes off the bench. And they just don't really have guys that can shoot it coming off the bench. They also have a ton of guys that are playing on the perimeter that aren't going to shoot it well. Dennis Schroeder, Marcus Smart, Josh Richardson, Romeo Langford. Like, those guys are going to shoot it. Like, all those guys are willing shooters, but none of them are knockdown shooters. The only knockdown shooter they have on the team outside of Tatum and Brown is Peyton Pritchard.
Yeah.
And Peyton Pritchard, he was incredible last year, but he's just so small. Like, honestly, like, it limits you in what you can do with when he's on the court defensively. So to me, Aaron Nesmith is a guy that even, like, he's a good spot-up shooter. He showed some juice off the bounce a little bit in Summer League. So I really like the idea of having him out there with Tatum and Brown. He gives them better size. He gives them a better chance to be more versatile. And then you can throw one of Smart, Schroeder, or Josh Richardson out there too. And if you want to play small, like, he's your option. So I could see him getting a lot of minutes this year and making lots of shots for them and kind of being like their token shooter off the bench. And it's his second-year guy. So to me, lots of second-year guys make a leap. So Aaron Nesmith is my first one.
Yeah, I like that. I'm very interested to see how many minutes per game Schroeder gets.
Yeah.
Because, typically in his career, he's demanded a lot of minutes. And, he's a perfectly good player. But, yeah, there are some other guys on that Boston roster that I kind of would like to see more of. And I don't – it feels like they're kind of in this transition period anyway where you'd want to prioritize someone like Aaron Nesmith. So we'll see if they do that or not.
Yeah, I think Nesmith should play. I mean, he only played 14 minutes per game last year. I mean, even I'm not saying like he needs to play 30, but if you up it to like 20, I think that will increase his usage. I think his efficiency could be better than it was last year. I think he's better than a 37% three-point shooter. And if he's ups that to like 42 and he's scoring 10 points a game, like, wow, okay, nice season for Aaron Nesmith. Next one, Tyrese Maxey from the Philadelphia 76ers. So Maxey's a really interesting player on easily the most interesting team right now in the NBA, just because of all the Ben Simmons stuff. And a Ben Simmons trade could dramatically affect what's going to happen with Maxey. So if they are able to trade for Damian Lillard or somebody like that, like maybe Maxey doesn't make the leap that he could, and he'll still have a role off the bench. But there's a chance that the dust settles, they trade Ben Simmons, they get back players that maybe aren't going to be like a lead guard, and Maxey could be their starting point guard. Like there is a world where that happens.
Doesn't that scare you?
It does a little bit, but I'm a Tyrese Maxey believer. Again, like similar with Nesmith, like he only played 15 minutes per game last year. The shooting efficiency stuff is definitely the scariest stuff there, but he shot the ball well from the free throw line, 87% from the line. And in Game 6 against the Hawks, Doc Rivers relied on him heavily, and he delivered 16 points, 6 boards, played for them, like played big minutes for them, played 30 minutes that night. So I think that this year they're going to rely on him a little bit more, whether or not they trade Ben Simmons or whatever happens. And even if they trade for another creator, like they are just void of perimeter creation. Like
Well, I was going to say,
this team really struggles with.
If they didn't bring back a creator in a Ben Simmons trade, like that is a ton of pressure on Tyrese Maxey because of what you just said.
Yeah. I mean, outside of Embiid, like Embiid can create offense, but you still need perimeter creation. Like Maxey's like the guy. He's the guy. And that's one of the huge faults of this team. And you can see, I mean, we cover the Thunder, but like they're creating a team where like almost everybody on the team can create, right? Like every single person, like they could have a starting five. They could create a starting five where it's like, okay, like every single one of those guys can go get a bucket. And with the Sixers team, they're extremely limited. And so this is part of why I think Maxey could have a breakout season, just because I think they're going to put the ball in his hands some. And he's going to have a chance to do it. And he was pretty good on drives. I think he scored about the same amount of points that Ben Simmons did on drives with half the amount of drives. So I think that he's got a shot to really be a good player. And if he can up the shooting efficiency, he could be a legitimate starting guard in the NBA. He's got all the other tools to get there. So I'm interested to see what he can do this year, just as a guy that can penetrate and kick or, finish at the rim. Like to me, he's a really interesting player, and almost like if he's on any other team, I don't know that he gets this kind of opportunity, but just because he's on the Sixers, I think that there's going to be big-time opportunity for Tyrese Maxey this year.
And to be fair to the Sixers, all that creation in Oklahoma City got us the worst offense in the league, so we really can't toot that creation horn too much, Andrew.
Well, you know what I mean.
No, I know. I get it.
Yeah. No, it's not to say like OKC is like some like juggernaut or something. I'm just saying like what they're building for in the future is like what most like NBA teams that are great have. Like lots of different guys that can go do something, like either pass or shoot.
Right.
But the Sixers they've just been built in such a strange way where somehow Tobias Harris is their best creator. Outside of Ben Simmons. Or Joel Embiid, not Ben Simmons. But yeah, the Ben Simmons stuff is really the hinge for all of this and for the entire roster, really. Like, what's going to happen? He's obviously
for the future of the franchise, Andrew.
Not going to play for the Sixers again. And I don't know. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see what happens with Maxey. Next one. Our old friend, Hamidou Diallo.
Oh, interesting. Hami,
a second-round pick. He just got a brand-new deal. Not many guys that are chosen as late in the draft as he was get this second deal. He's the 45th pick in the draft. So big ups to him for that. And also, I think he just sneakily got so much better last year with the Thunder and with Detroit. And it's not just shooting. Like some of the shooting stuff got better. He was better at the rim than he was in the past. He's when he was in Detroit, he shot the 3-ball well. I don't really believe in that so much, and that to me that doesn't really matter so much. But his ball handling and driving and creation skills for himself improved dramatically from year 2 to year 3. And now that he kind of has maybe some pressure off of him, like he feels like is going to be a pro for a long time, he's with a team that I think he's comfortable with. I think he could play a lot for this Detroit team. I think that he is probably more ready to play alongside of Cade Cunningham than Killian Hayes is. And Killian's obviously like way more important to the team than Hamidou Diallo is, but like Hami's only 23. It's not like Hami's like super old. Again, similar with Tyrese Maxey, like a lot of this to push him from like the 23 minutes he had last year to like 30, like he just has to shoot the ball better. And to play alongside Cade, like he has to shoot the ball better. But he did shoot 39% from 3 when he was with Detroit in 20 games, which is it's a baffling number to me.
I didn't know that.
It's funny. He took the exact same amount of threes for Oklahoma City and Detroit, and ended up shooting 39%. He was 16 of 41 from 3 in Detroit. So tiny sample size. There's not a lot there. You can't really take much away from that. But if he can be a 33% 3-point shooter, 34%, and do all the, like, he's very versatile on defense. He's one of the most dangerous players in transition. He'll dunk everything. He's really figured out a lot of stuff last year. And to me, most of it was figured out within his handle, because that's something that was really kind of scary in years past, where like every single drive was an adventure for Hami, where you just didn't know what was going to happen. And that changed last year. That changed. And so I'm interested to see him. I think that he actually fits pretty well with this squad, with Jeremy Grant and with Cade. So I think he'll come off the bench for them, but he can play. He can play the 2 and 3. And I think he's going to be a very valuable player for them this year, and could surprise. I think that he could be a guy that plays up to 30 minutes a night and surprises people across the league. So Hamidou Diallo.
Yeah, I mean, combining him with like Isaiah Stewart, like a lot of high energy guys.
Yeah,
he has some elite athleticism that isn't all the way or isn't present throughout that roster. Yep. So I think he brings something there. Yeah, I like him in lineups where Killian Hayes isn't there, because I still don't trust Hamidou Diallo's shooting. But if you pair him with Cade, Sadiq Bey, Jeremy Grant, like there's some pretty fun lineups you can get to.
Yeah, and he'll go get a bucket and he can get to the rim. So that's, to me, he's a really exciting player too. So hope the Hami has a great year. Now these last two, Al, are very dependent on what happens with their teams. This first one, I think maybe regardless could get some minutes. It's Malachi Flynn for the Toronto Raptors. Lots of second-year guys, Al. There wasn't a lot to work with here. But Malachi Flynn, to me, he was a 32% three-point shooter last season for the Raptors. I think he's a lot better than that. 7.5 points, 2.9 assists. Like, he didn't do a whole lot in 20 minutes per game last year. He only played 47 games for them. But I think that just the stability that this Raptors team is going to have for this season, being back in Toronto, feeling like you're at home again, feeling like you finally have a normal season, I think could be good for a lot of guys, and especially some of these young guys. And Malachi Flynn, to me, looked like one of the better players in Summer League. He was very poised. He was making his shots. He just looked really good out there. And so I think with the lack of guards that are on this Toronto team, especially if Goran Dragic either is traded or bought out or whatever happens with him, then you can see like an immediate role for him. If Dragic is there, maybe it's a little bit more difficult to even get him back to the 20 minutes that he had before. But outside of Dragic and Van Vliet, like the only other guards that are on this team, like you have rookie David Johnson, who's on this team, Svi Mihailuk, who's not, we know Svi, he's not a point guard. Like that's it. Like that's the list. And they have other guys that are going to handle. Obviously, Pascal's going to handle. I think that they're going to have other guys that are going to handle on this team outside of their guards. But to me, I see the role there, especially if Dragic is gone, for Malachi Flynn to step in and be like a really nice piece off the bench that's going to, I mean, he could score 12 to 15 points per game. Nothing crazy, but like nice little jump from Malachi Flynn.
Now, is your last choice as deep of a cut as the last time you did this?
It's pretty deep, actually.
Okay.
It's a pretty deep cut. It's not as insane as my last one, but it is Goga Bitadze.
Oh, Goga!
Pacers. So this is completely dependent on them actually doing something that we have heard, that's been rumored for what feels like years, right?
Yes.
That one of their bigs will be traded. And Goga hasn't had much of an opportunity to play for the Pacers. You know, he is going into his third season. He played 8 minutes per game his rookie season and 12 last season. But if you go and look at his per 36 stats, they explode. Like his block numbers are at almost 4 per game. Like he's a good rebounder. He in the G League, like the guy's taking and making threes. I mean, when he's played in the G League, and they've sent him there a lot, he has looked like one of the better players on the court. And so to me, it's free Goga from here. Like either get him to another team or let Goga play. Or maybe they make a trade and Goga could be the backup center. I'm not saying like Goga should be some like starting level center, but I think that he's a guy that should play in the league. I think he should be a big that plays off the bench for somebody. And if you're looking for a big, and if they're willing to give him up for a second rounder, like go get Goga. Go for Goga. I think this guy's good. I think he's a good player. I think he's being hidden on this Pacers squad and deserves a chance to play.
Now this is eerily reminiscent of your Free Bamba movement. Do you feel like Free Goga, you have moved on from Bamba and he is the new Bamba?
Yeah, I think that Goga is my new Bamba.
Okay. So that actually not great for Goga. Not a great development.
The track record isn't great.
Of guys you've wanted to free from their current teams.
Of guys that need freedom, in my opinion, it's not been great. But he is my deepest cut. I think it's a pretty deep cut. He was a first round pick.
Oh that's definitely a deep cut. Because I remember doing a little thing for him for another podcast where I had to do some research for him. And of course you do research on any guy before the draft and you like talk yourself into them. And so I was kind of excited about him going to the draft, and then he went in the first round, and then he just kind of disappeared. And honestly, the only thing you remember from his rookie season is the fight that he got in with the coach towards the end of the year. That was like really the only interesting thing.
Yep, that's it. But he's only 22. You know, like somebody needs to give him a shot. The Pacers need to get him off the shelf. Come on.
Free Goga. Okay, let's celebrate some birthdays real quick before we get to our guests.
Blow out the candles, get your cake, and eat it too. It's the birthday bash.
It's your birthday. Somebody in here, it's your birthday. It's your birthday. Somebody in here, it's your birthday. It's your birthday. Everybody move like it's your birthday.
It's been 2 weeks of birthdays. I'm going to give you 2 names. You're going to tell me which guy is younger. First up, Gary Harris, Aaron Gordon. Just signing a new deal with the Nuggets. Traded for Gary Harris, in fact. Who's now
Gary Harris is younger.
Wrong! Gary Harris turning 27, Aaron Gordon turning 26. What about DeJounte Murray, John Collins?
Oh, my.
2 young guns.
DeJounte
Murray, John Collins.
John Collins is younger.
He is only 24. DeJounte Murray turning 25. What about Yao Ming, Ben Wallace?
Oh, man.
Yao Ming, Ben Wallace.
Oh, gosh. I'm trying to place where I know where Yao was drafted, what year he was drafted, and I cannot place.
Well, that's because Ben Wallace was undrafted.
I know.
You'll never know it.
Year. I know. I'm trying to place the year he came into the league. I'll say that Ben is older.
He is older by 6 years. Ben Wallace is 47. Yao Ming is only 41.
Is that right?
I mean, I hope it is. I may have typed it up wrong.
I've got a Yao Ming jersey hanging in my office right now.
I'll always remember that draft. Watched it with you.
Right. Yep.
Next one, John Wall, Serge Ibaka.
Serge is older.
Yes, he is. Serge is 32. John Wall, 31. Next, Tyreek Evans, Lance Stevenson. Similar guys. Certainly had a flash in the league. They've been out for a couple of years.
Lance is older.
Lance is not. Lance only 31 years old. Tyreek Evans 32. Both of those are surprising to me.
Yeah, that is very surprising. Very weird. Very, very weird. Okay, something else. Is that it?
Yeah, I was just going to tell you didn't do great. Okay.
Yeah, I did, I did bad. I'll accept it. I'll accept it here on September 16th. Something that's coming at you real quick after this break is my buddy Keith Parrish to talk about his Memphis Grizzlies.
Today's episode is sponsored by the NBA and their quest to advance the game of basketball, grow the community, and impact culture. The league celebrates its teams, players, and fans across the past, present, and future as part of its 75th anniversary season. That's Game highlights pivotal moments on court and beyond, from iconic plays and arenas to the impact players have in the community. That's the NBA. That's Game. Like in the NBA Finals when the Bucks had their backs against the wall. Jrue Holiday steals the ball, pushes the break, alley-oop to Giannis for an iconic slam, seals Game 5 and the eventual title. That's the NBA. That's Game. This is more than just basketball. It's what connects us all and keeps us coming back for more. That's the NBA. That's Game.
Now, this may sound odd, but have you ever wanted to learn how to box or kickbox from real fighters? Or do you want to get your kids involved in a fitness journey with you while teaching them a valuable skill? Well, Fight Camp brings the boxing and kickboxing gym right to your home with full body workouts that you'll actually look forward to and a freestanding punching bag that can take your hardest hits. Fight Camp is made for beginners to experienced boxers who want to box from home with several different paths you can follow that teach you the skills along the way, paired with workouts to reinforce your new learnings. There's also new content being released weekly that cover a range of abilities from easy to advanced. It comes with all the gear you need to box at home, including that freestanding punching bag, boxing gloves, quick hand wraps, and their unique punch tracking sensors that challenge you to hit minimum amount of punches each round and allow you to track your boxing and kickboxing journey so you can see all the progress you're making. And it's great for kids because Fight Camp is one of the only home workouts that has no heavy weights or spinning wheels. As soon as most people get their Fight Camp bag, the kids are always one of the first people to walk up and want to try it. You can pay for your Fight Camp over 24 months for less than the cost of a boxing gym and get it right away. Plus, Fight Camp offers free shipping with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Just go to joinfightcamp.com/NBA. To get free shipping on Fight Camp, go to joinfightcamp.com/NBA.
I'd like to welcome in my buddy Keith Parrish. He hosts the Fast Break Breakfast Pod and a Grizzlies pod called Grits and Grinds for Grind City Media. Keith is like genuinely one of my favorite podcasters, full stop, period. So, Keith, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. And Andrew, thanks a lot, man. What a nice thing to say.
It's 100% true.
And our first returning guest.
Is that true?
Yeah.
On Saturday Slam and Jam.
I'm the first returning guest?
Yeah.
In your face, everyone else?
Yeah, that's right. So we're going to talk Grizz. So the Grizz had a successful year last season. They made it to the playoffs where guys like John Morant and Dylan Brooks announced their arrival on the biggest stage. Coming off a season like that, I think that most expected the Grizzlies to run it back with a focus on making the playoffs again. But they traded Jonas Valanciunas and then drafted projects like Zaire Williams and Santi Aldama. And that does not exactly fit into those expectations. So now, with the summer, to think about the Valanciunas trade and its fallout, how does the Grizzlies offseason fit into how you viewed their long-term plan? And did the summer feel like a significant deviation or just a continuation of what they've been doing?
I don't want to be totally state-run media, but I don't feel like it was a deviation. I feel like it was a continuation of this vision of long-term growth, and I dispute the allegation that they took some form of step back. I know that's the common perception.
Yeah.
I think the common thought was, they're trading Jonas Valanciunas, for Steven Adams, who had a rough season last year, and they're taking this project. But, I do think that this team feels like, all right, we made the playoffs last year. We made the play-in the year before. And I think they're assuming internally they're going to make the playoffs again. I don't think there's any thought whatsoever from top to bottom of that organization. I mean, definitely not the players and the coaches, but not even the front office. I don't think the front office is like, all right, you know what? Let's turn it back from being 8th or 9th in the West to maybe being 10th, 11th, or 12th. I don't think that's the feeling at all. I think they looked at their roster and they'd always known, or they always felt like, Jonas Valanciunas is not this long-term perfect fit with Ja and Jaren. He's not this integral part of the future. And we're going into the last year. This is the last year of his current deal. And they had an opportunity to say, all right, Jonas was awesome last year, career year for him. He helped the team get to the playoffs, obviously. But Jaren was hurt. He was out the whole year. I think ideally when Jaren is healthy, their vision of the Grizzlies did not include Jonas Valanciunas, and so they decided, listen, let's move him to the Pelicans because we don't want to re-sign him. We don't want to use our cap space on having this guy around for the next 5 seasons. Let's then use that to move up in the draft, and we'll take a swing on a project like Zaire Williams. We'll also bring back a future first-round pick via the Pelicans from the Lakers, and I think that was just a good bit of business for a team that said, you know what, we don't really want to make a commitment to this guy because we think we're going to be good enough without him, and I agree with that assessment. I don't feel like it's going to be that big of a step back.
Yeah. Off the top of your head, can you name every player that was acquired in trading Jonas Valanciunas and all the players that were acquired?
Yeah. Do you want me to do that?
I want you to do it right now on the show. Yes.
So Jonas was traded. Jonas and the picks were traded for Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe. Eric Bledsoe was moved to the Clippers for Daniel Oturu, Rajon Rondo, Patrick Beverley. Patrick Beverley was traded for Juancho Hernan-Gomez and Jarrett Culver. Juancho Hernan-Gomez was traded for Carson Edwards and Chris Dunn.
Unbelievable. What a wild few weeks for the Grizzlies and
it was amazing for podcasting. Weekly podcast, incredible content. Just they gave me something every single week. It was awesome.
Unreal.
So based on what you said about you not seeing a significant step back, because when you listen to podcasts about the Grizzlies, the thing that everyone says when they bring up Jonas Valanciunas, they say arguably the second best player on the Grizzlies last year. Everyone has to say that when they talk about Jonas. So do you not see the drop-off between him and Steven Adams as significant, or you don't think it really matters, or you think Steven Adams may be a better fit in some ways?
It's a good thing I don't have a dog, because if every time I heard someone say Jonas Valanciunas was arguably the best Grizzly last year, I would kick my dog. I would, I don't understand where this came from. I've heard, I will admit, perhaps I am incorrect because I've actually heard a lot of very smart NBA people say this, but it kind of blows my mind. I don't understand what they're talking about. Are they talking about fantasy basketball? Jonas Valanciunas was 100% the best Grizzlies player last season in fantasy basketball.
Yeah.
Very, very consistent outside of the times he missed games. When he played, he would give you big numbers, great percentages if you're in a categories league. But John Morant is what stirs the drink. He's the straw that stirs the drink. Then you have Dylan Brooks and Kyle Anderson, who were the glue on the wing, who did everything. Jonas Valanciunas put up huge numbers, and he was the crutch. He was the safety valve. He was maybe the safety blanket for he got all these offensive rebounds, and when the half-court offense didn't work, basically the fallback was, let's let Jonas just get the offensive rebound and put it back in. And I do feel though, he was honestly replaceable with the guys they have on this roster. I don't think there's much of a step back when Jonas Valanciunas played versus when Xavier Tillman was in the game, or when Brandon Clark's in the game, or when healthy, when Jaren Jackson Jr. is in the game. The reason I don't think the Grizzlies take much of a step back, they're gonna definitely miss him in the half court on offense. I don't project him to be a good offensive team in the half court next season. They haven't been for the last 2 seasons. But I think getting Jaren Jackson Jr. back more than compensates for that. I think the downgrade from Jonas to Steven Adams, I don't think it's that significant where the increased opportunity for Jaren and Xavier and Brandon Clark is going to be that big of a difference in the win column. He's also one of those weird guys, despite his on-off numbers, they were very good last year. The lineup stats, analytics said Jonas had a great season. But he's one of those guys when I watch him where it's like, I don't know if he wasn't scoring 20 points per game, I don't know if we'd miss it. I think those points would get picked up somewhere. I'm not sure what his awesome stats, I'm not sure what the contribution is to winning. And I could be totally wrong, and the Grizzlies could be like significantly worse next year. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like I was wrong. But like right now, my theory, and I think possibly the front office's theory, is what he's doing right now, we can have other guys do that on offense. And then on defense, we can be even better with a more versatile defender at the 5.
Yeah, that makes sense. So one thing that everyone seems to agree on is that this upcoming season is a really big one for Jaren Jackson Jr. He's currently eligible for a rookie extension. Will be a restricted free agent this summer if the extension is not offered. So what are the areas of Jackson's game that are the biggest question marks heading into this season? I feel like rebounding is one of them, but like what else?
I think it's even simpler. I think it's availability.
Yeah.
I mean, it's availability. You know, he was banged up a little bit his rookie year. Maybe he could have played at the end of the season and they were tanking, but we're not really sure. But like him missing all of last season and being held out longer than most people anticipated, that might have possibly been a messaging error from the front office where they seemed like they were hinting that he would be available in like January at times, at least by the trade deadline. And then it got to the end of the year and it's like there's 15 games left. He's going to play next week. And it was like, this is really strange. So I do think, though, if he comes out and with this healthy offseason is just the guy we saw in year 1 and 2, that a lot of these worries will be allayed and we won't care that much. We'll be like, all right, this guy's the promising young stretch 4/5 that we've gotten so excited about. I mean, if he starts creating off the dribble just a little bit more, I think then he can move from like that 17 point per game scorer he was in his second year to closer to a 20 point per game scorer. And then I think no one's going to care about the rebounding. Like he is a bad rebounder, but also if he wasn't on the perimeter all the time by design, like they're on purpose, he's a shooter. They have him at the 3-point line. You know, if he moved inside, he would average 6-7 more rebounds, but 6-7 total rebounds, excuse me. I don't think there's any chance he ever gets to a double-digit rebounds in his career. But, I'm not as worried about the rebounding as I am just like, let's just see him on the court. Let's see him on the court for an extended amount of time, and then we'll start seeing those, like, unicorn-type plays. And it's funny, we forget, when he was drafted, he was 18 years old, and he was a project.
Yeah.
The idea was, like, this guy might not help us, much like drafting Zaire Williams this year. Like, this guy might not help us for a couple of years, but we think he has the defensive versatility and a 3-point shot that is going to work. Well, it turned out his offense was way further advanced than his defense was, which is surprising to everyone. Another thing he needs to improve is like the fouling. Like he fouls a ton. He fouls almost as much as his teammate Dylan Brooks. And so like he would need to get a little more disciplined on defense and cut those fouls down. But I think as he ages, he just turned 22 a couple days ago. Like, I think he's just maturing into his body, and people forget exactly how young he is because it is going into his 4th year. But I think we're going to see, like, if we see the defense coming around and that handle coming with that 3-point shot we saw his first 2 years, then you're like, oh yeah, that's why everyone thought this guy was a unicorn. That's why the Grizzlies fans were so excited that, like, maybe they have, like, a future all-star. So, I don't know. That was a long-winded way. The short bullet points are availability, rebounding, less fouls, but I think honestly availability is going to take care of all of it.
Yeah. So what's his health status? Is he good to go?
As far as I know, he's good to go. I mean, as far as they've told us that he's been practicing and available and 100% full steam ahead.
Looking at the current roster, as it's always been with the Grizzlies the last couple of years, it's incredibly deep. And last year that sometimes led to promising young players like Brandon Clark not always getting minutes for the team. Who do you think could be the odd man or odd men out in Taylor Jenkins' rotation this season?
My best guess, if they're really going, this is where they have to balance like the goals of the season, like the long-term franchise development, and then just making the playoffs this year. If it's just about making the playoffs, like Zaire Williams probably is not playing a minute, but you would assume with him being the 10th pick, they're going to try to work him in somewhere. I would guess it's going to be one of those big guys who's out of the rotation. Either Brandon Clark, like he was at the end of the season last year, or Xavier Tillman. I'm anticipating, and most people around Memphis are, that Steven Adams is going to start. But I could also see a scenario where you have Steven Adams maybe not closing games, where like Steven Adams could be the odd man out in a rotation. This is something that happened with Jonas Valanciunas that I feel like a lot of people forget in the bubble, in the Orlando bubble at the end of the 2019-2020 season when before Jaren got hurt, Jonas Valanciunas was not playing fourth quarters for the Grizzlies. Like, it was very apparent at that time, like, oh, they're planning for the future. Their front court of the future is Brandon Clark and Jaren Jackson Jr. And so at that point, going into last season, a lot of people thought, hey, maybe the Grizzlies will trade Jonas Valanciunas. Of course, he then goes out and has a career year because Jaren's not available, and that kind of shifted the fan perspective, where now we're kind of shocked when Jonas gets traded. So if you think about, could that apply to Steven Adams this year, I could see him maybe drifting out of that lineup. But I think, to go into it, we know Ja Morant's there, and then Dylan Brooks is there, and then who else is that starter is the question. Maybe Kyle Anderson at the 3 with Jaren and Steven at the 5, and Bane and Melton are going to be in that rotation. Tyus Jones presumably still the backup 1, and then it's like, okay, do we play Xavier Tillman and Brandon Clark, or do we play Zaire Williams somewhere in there, maybe kick one of those big guys, Tillman or Clark, out of the rotation?
Yeah, it'll be interesting because Steven Adams is just he's an interesting player for them because I think he'll be better than he was with the Pelicans, but if he's not, like, the Grizzlies are kind of a perfect team for him to go to because they've got guys behind him that can take the minutes. Because he starts off almost every season where it's like, oh my gosh, Steven Adams, look like he's back, like he's so good, and then like things just taper off because he gets hurt, he doesn't he plays through so many injuries. And that's the thing with the Thunder. Like, no, people don't remember, but he played through a ton of injuries, and he would just get so beat up by the end of the season. Like, he's just not contributing hardly anything. And so hopefully they can mitigate that at least some with these younger bigs.
Yeah, I think it's a great spot for Steven Adams. He gets to play with like a true point guard again. Maybe like we got to play that year with Chris Paul in Oklahoma City, and he looked great. And then he struggled last year. I don't know what the situation was. Was he banged up? Has the tread come off the tire? Did he just not have a good chemistry with the ball handlers in New Orleans? I think playing alongside Ja Morant gives him every opportunity for a big bounce back year. But like you say, if he's truly maybe past his prime and not as healthy as he used to be, the Grizzlies don't care because they have other guys. They have plenty of guys. You can have a front court rotation of just play Kyle Anderson at the 4, and then you have Jaren Jackson Jr., Xavier Tillman, Brandon Clark. You don't need them. Like, you could fill all those minutes easily right there.
Mm-hmm. Keith, because it's September 2021, we have to talk about Ben Simmons because that's what we do on an NBA podcast, is that we talk about Ben Simmons.
I know.
So on a Grits and Grind pod, you discuss a hypothetical idea of the Grizzlies getting involved in a Ben Simmons trade. Is that something that you'd be interested in as a Grizzlies fan, or what would you be willing to give up in a Simmons trade?
I am interested as a Grizzlies fan. If you tell me I can get a multiple-time All-Star under contract for a long time who's an all-defensive player, yes, I'm interested. Like, how do you get those people? You can't get those people. So despite the flaws, despite a possible awkward fit with having Ja Morant and Ben Simmons, I'm absolutely interested. I think an ideal front court pairing, maybe outside of the rebounding, is a Jaren Jackson Jr., Ben Simmons 4-5 combination. Get out of town. That would be nuts. Mm-hmm. That would be fun. I don't care if Ben Simmons can't shoot. I don't care if people are going under Ja Morant's screen. If they get a defensive rebound, there's a good chance they score a layup within 5 or 6 seconds, like every single time. Like, I think their transition opportunities would be unbelievable. The Grizzlies would be so good at defense. Mm-hmm. I feel like no one knows or talks about the fact that the Grizzlies were 7th in defense last year in defensive rating. If you've gotten rid of Grayson Allen, you've gotten rid of Jonas Valanciunas. Mm-hmm. If you were theoretically to give some front court minutes to a Ben Simmons instead, like, this team would be unbelievable at defense. Just like Ja would be your weak link. He'd be your only weak link. Everybody else, honestly, in like the top 10 rotation is a very good defender. So I'm 100% intrigued by it. Like, where the rubber meets the road, it's like, could the Grizzlies offer anything where the Sixers would be interested? And that's where it gets tougher for me. I would offer them a bunch of draft picks. Like, I don't know how many it would take, but like, as far as the guys who could step into the Sixers and play, I think a theoretical idea of something like Kyle Anderson, Brandon Clark, and then we'd probably have to give them Melton, and that would break my heart because I think Melton's he's has the biggest ceiling of anybody that no one talks about. Maybe the hardcore NBA Twitter people talk about him. I only include him because he has seemed like he's fallen out of favor with the Grizzlies coaching staff at times, and I think that might be something that could get the deal done. If you were to do maybe include Tyus Jones because you don't need him anymore if Ben Simmons is coming in to play, he could do some backup one. So if the salary matches, you gave the Sixers, if it's Melton, Brandon Clark, Kyle Anderson, Tyus Jones, and then a couple of picks, that almost feels like too much for me as a Grizzlies fan because it's like a risk. And right now the Grizzlies are very well set up to play it safe, just to see what they have. They have 6 first-round picks in the next 3 off seasons, so they can play it safe, maybe make a bigger swing at another time. I'm not eager to give up Melton. I'm not eager to give up Kyle Anderson. If there's a way just to work it out with picks, I'm much more intrigued because, as excited as I would be about the dynamism, I guess that's a word, of a Ben Simmons joining this Grizzlies team, risking giving up these young guys who are already solid contributors and you have them under good contracts like Melton and Clark and Bay, and they're going to be on the team for 2 to 3 years if you want them because of their good contracts. That's where it's a hard decision, I think, for the Grizzlies to be do we risk it for this? Do we risk breaking up what we have right now for this guy?
Yeah, it feels like that's every Ben Simmons trade right now. Because I believe if you posted that on Sixers Reddit, they would be like, "You're insane.
Yeah,
take that package right back to Memphis. We don't want that. That doesn't help us. What are you talking about?" And then Memphis people are like, "That's way too much for Ben Simmons."
Exactly.
That's every single conversation being had right now.
Yeah, I think if I talked about this on Grits and Grinds in my last episode, I honestly feel like if you added Melton, Kyle Anderson, and Brandon Clark to the Sixers, I don't think there's that much of a step back. I think Kyle Anderson can fit alongside Tobias Harris. He can play with Embiid. I don't think there's that big of a step back for them, and the Sixers resolve their issue. Their obvious elephant in the room, we resolved this issue. We're not going to take a big step back, and we've also picked up some first-round draft picks that we can then use in subsequent deals, maybe to bring in that primary creator that we might need that we didn't pick up in this deal. So it makes sense to me, and I'm with you. It is funny. Both fan bases are no, I wouldn't do that.
Okay, last question, Keith, and this is a softball. The Grizzlies are one of the last franchises with no retired numbers, but that will be changing this season with the jersey retirements of both Zebo and Tony Allen. Well, I think everyone has fond memories of that Grizzlies era. Could you speak a little about what those guys meant to that franchise as someone from the era who's been following this team for so many years?
Yeah, they really captured some kind of essence of the city, and I know I'm always kind of loath to assign the narrative device of this is how people in this city feel. And I'm not from Memphis. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. But those guys, both of them were kind of underdogs. Tony Allen was just a role player. He's a role player who came in, and Zach Randolph had some sort of embarrassing stops on the Clippers and the Knicks, was a bit of a laughingstock by the time the Grizzlies acquired him. They got him for the expiring deal of Quentin Richardson. They got Zach Randolph for free, essentially. And then Zach Randolph transforms his career, his identity with this blue-collar bruising style of play, and they lift the Grizzlies from a team that in their previous 15 seasons as a franchise had never won a single playoff game to all of a sudden being this tough team no one wants to play, and then they get the first playoff series win in franchise history, upsetting the 1-seed Spurs. Then they make the playoffs for 7 straight years. We have the great battles with you guys' Thunder for the time, and I think just they put the Grizzlies on the map nationally, I feel as a good team. The Grizzlies were never on TV, ever, until the Grizzlies got Zebo and Tony Allen and Mike and Mark, and those 4 guys, the core 4, just really transformed this team, and with such sustained success, I think it's awesome they're getting their jerseys retired. Tony Allen might be my favorite player of all time, and honestly, role players don't normally get their jerseys retired outside of Nick Collison. And so I'm thrilled for Tony Allen that the role he played is just an agent of chaos as the grindfather, a guy who when he checked in the game caused havoc to break out on the court, and his emotion, his locker room presence of just kind of, I don't know what you call it, just a disruptor, really lifted up this Grizzlies team and made them one of the better NBA teams for like a solid 3-year stretch there. And no, I'm just thrilled for them. And I think it's a great part of Memphis history, and I'm happy they get recognized.
Yeah, I love it because there are those players that you identify with an individual team, but I thought what made the Grizzlies so unique is that there were 4 players.
Yeah.
And they were all connected to that city. And you can't think about one of them without thinking about the other 3. And that was just such a cool thing to have for the Grizzlies. Okay.
Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows, you're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all that entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes, no need to buy another device ever again, and the best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. Today, many small business owners are busier than ever. Time spent searching for interview candidates can take time away from managing and growing a business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has made it easier to get the candidates worth interviewing faster, and it's free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 770 million people. Focus on candidates with the skills and experience you need. Use screening questions to get your role in front of only the most qualified people. Then use the simple tools on LinkedIn Jobs to quickly filter and prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find candidates worth interviewing faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/NBA show. That's linkedin.com/NBA show to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Keith, thank you for answering all of our questions, but it is now time to play Andrew versus the Beat. Now, Keith is our first returning contestant on Andrew versus the Beat, and he is seeking revenge from Andrew, who beat him in the first round. Now, how this works, you already know how it works, but there's 8 questions, 1 through 8. You'll give me a number, 1 through 8. That'll correspond to a trivia question. It may be easy, maybe hard. If you get it right, you get 2 points. If you get it wrong, Andrew has a chance to steal for 1. So, Keith, start us off with a number between 1 and 8.
Before I pick a number,
yes,
I beat Andrew last time.
Say,
you did?
I'm pretty sure you beat me.
I did
quite
not.
confident. Yeah.
I did not lose to Andrew. I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that at the beginning of your
I think
streak,
I
Andrew,
was
or at the end of it?
I was the end of Andrew's losing streak because I did beat him.
Yes, he was the last person that I lost to, and then
okay,
yeah,
and then you caught fire. So
Wait,
you actually needed.
Are
Keith
you on
to
a
beat
winning
you.
streak now?
Well, not now.
He
but
was
I
not anymore.
I was on like a 10-week.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he started 0-11-1, got to 11-11-1.
That's incredible.
And is now 11-13-1. So he's had, I think, 2 losses in a row.
All right, well, let's keep that losing streak going.
Well, I apologize to Keith. So, Keith, you can go for 2-0 up on Andrew.
Yeah.
Insurmountable.
I will pick the number 2.
Number 2, this player holds the Grizzlies franchise record for highest PER in a single season with a PER of 24.4.
That's a tough one to me. I'll go Pau Gasol.
Pau Gasol, that's a great guess, but it's wrong.
Yeah.
Andrew, you have a chance to steal. Highest single season PER for the Grizzlies, 24.4.
Is this Jonas Valanciunas?
It is Jonas Valanciunas.
Unbelievable.
Isn't that wild?
I almost said that, and then I was second guessed. Oh, what a mess.
And by the way, of course, this also includes Vancouver Grizzlies history, just so you're aware.
Okay.
I didn't want to say that to sway you. Okay, Andrew, number between 1 and 8.
Number 1.
Number 1, which Memphis Grizzlies coach holds the franchise record for highest winning percentage during their coaching tenure? Highest winning percentage by a Grizzlies coach.
Gosh, your questions are so hard because there's a guy that I just think that it should be, but it's usually not that guy. I guess I'll go David Yeager. Final.
That is correct, Andrew, for 2 points.
Because Lionel Hollins would have been like the guy I would have thought of, but it's never who you think of.
It's never who you think. So back to Keith.
I'll take number 7.
Question number 7. In 2014, the Grizzlies had a special in-game promotion giving away a free rub-on neck tattoo in honor of this Grizzlies player.
James Bloodsport Johnson.
That is correct for 2 points. 3-2. Back to Andrew.
Amazing. Let's go 8.
Question number 8. In the playoffs, Ja Morant scored 47 points, breaking the single-game record for most points in Grizzlies franchise history, set by this player.
Is this Mike Miller?
It is Mike Miller.
Not supposed to get that, Andrew.
Usually I say before each time that I feel like these questions are easy, and this week might be the one. You guys are nailing all of these. Back to Keith.
I'll take number 6.
Number 6. Ooh, the toughest one. How many players currently on the Grizzlies roster have played at least 5 seasons in the NBA?
See, I gotta say him. Steven Adams, Kyle Anderson, and I'm now counting Dylan Brooks' seasons. 2.
2. That is incorrect. Andrew, you have a chance to steal.
3. I mean, I have no idea.
A great guess. One more than Keith, but not good enough. It's 4. Steven Adams, Kyle Anderson, Tyus Jones, and Chris Dunn.
Yeah.
Oh, Chris Dunn.
And Chris Dunn.
Yeah.
All right, Andrew. 3 questions left. You're currently up 5-2.
I'll go 3.
When the Memphis Grizzlies relocated from Vancouver to Memphis for the 2001-2002 season, they became the easternmost Western Conference team in the NBA, taking the title from this team.
Oh, man. Geography.
Latitude.
Is this the Timberwolves?
It is the Timberwolves. Andrew, you're on a roll. We are back to Keith. There's 2 questions left. Number 4, number 5.
Number 4.
Number 4. The Oklahoma City Thunder and Memphis Grizzlies met 3 times in the playoffs during the early 2010s. One of their most famous games was a triple overtime thriller on May 10th, 2011, with the Thunder winning 133-123. There were 9 players who scored at least 10 points in that game, and we're going to try to name them all. So, Keith, you're going to give me a name, then we're going to go to Andrew. He'll give me a name. We'll go back and forth until one of you stumbles.
Oh, my.
Yeah. Zach Randolph.
That is correct. He scored 34 points. Andrew.
We're just naming Grizzlies players, or we're naming Thunder players too?
Both, but from both teams. 9 players combined that had at least 10 points in that triple overtime thriller.
Had at least 10 points. Kevin Durant.
35 points. Jersey number. Back to Keith.
Westbrook.
Russell Westbrook scored 40 points. Back to Andrew.
James Harden.
James Harden scored 19 points. Back to Keith.
I feel like just going for the Thunder players to try to exhaust those.
I feel like I might have just exhausted them. I feel like I did.
I'll do Marc Gasol.
Marc Gasol, 26 points. Back to Andrew. There are 4 names left.
Who's the first one that Keith said?
I'm not telling you. You're supposed to pay attention, Andrew.
I was
supposed to be a good listener.
I know.
I can't help you cheat.
Okay. Gosh, this series, I just can't stop thinking about this guy. I don't know that if he scored this many in this game, but
say his name.
Grievous Vasquez. Just
Whoa!
I can't believe I was saving that one.
Just was like stomping the Thunder. Like that whole series was driving me nuts. Did he do it?
He did score 14 points.
Well,
Back to Keith.
He hit the game tying 3 in one of the.
I know.
I'm sad that one got taken.
Infuriating. Yeah.
So there are 3 names left.
OJ Mayo.
OJ Mayo scored 18 points. Back to Andrew.
Holy moly. I wish you would tell me the name that he said first. I just can't remember which Grizzlies.
I really want you to repeat it.
I know you do. I know. I'm
So
going
I
to
can
repeat
count
it, and then that will be it. I'm going to just take a stab in the dark. This guy actually played well for OKC off the bench during this playoff series. One of the only guys that played. I'm going to say Daquan Cook.
Let's see. Daquan Cook scored 10 points. Andrew, that is correct. That means there's one name left. If Keith gets it right, he gets all 2 points.
Man.
I got to go Mike Conley.
Absolutely. You guys got all 9, and Keith gets the points. Andrew gets nothing for his trouble.
But the Daquan Cook was so good. I would have never gotten that.
That was a great pull. Because I figured you'd go Serge Ibaka. Because that's kind of like he only scored 6 points in that game. But that would be like the obvious pick.
I feel like I blacked out during the first portion of this thing, so I don't remember the names that were being said. So I felt like I needed to stay away from like big names.
Wow.
Okay, Andrew, you get first stab at the last question.
Okay.
Question number 5. The grit and grind slogan was first uttered by Tony Allen in a post-game interview after a 27-point game. Later, Allen would say that the phrase was intended as a jab at this teammate who had sat out the game due to a hurt toe. Could be anyone.
Could be anyone's toe.
They all have toes, Andrew.
Oh, this is true. Dude, I have no clue. I'm just going to bow out. I have no clue.
Keith, do you know the answer?
So I'm confused about this because this game lives in lore, obviously, for the Memphis Grizzlies. It was against the Thunder.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the story is that OJ Mayo that Tony Allen beat up OJ Mayo on a plane before this game. But
really?
But OJ Mayo was out with the flu. That's not a busted toe. So now I'm confused about this hurt toe guy.
Let me tell you what my source was.
Okay.
This is all staying in, by the way.
Now this should all stay in. I feel nervous not guessing OJ Mayo, but I know he was out with the flu. He was out with a flu-like illness. That's what was put in the box score. So I got to guess something else.
So this was an interview he did with Mass Live. Tony Allen did this interview with MassLive.com. And in that interview happened to retell this story. Now, there could have been, maybe there's multiple stories.
So, yeah, if Tony Allen's telling the story, there's almost no chance it's correct. so I don't know I don't know. I'll guess Xavier Henry.
A good guess. But the hurt toe was from Rudy Gay, apparently.
Oh, Rudy Gay.
He threw shade at Rudy.
Apparently, Rudy even tweeted about it, knowing that it was a jab at him. Of course, you can't see the tweet anymore. But that's interesting. So Tony Allen may have been covering up the true story.
I don't know.
That interview.
That's a great story. I mean, I've heard Tony throw some shade at Rudy before, telling stories about the NBA. So it's not that surprising. But yeah, I didn't remember that. That's interesting.
Well, Andrew, you have tied it up 1-1 in the Andrew versus Keith battle.
What a nightmare.
Stay tuned for the rubber match.
Yes. Thank you, Geography. Keith, thanks so much for coming on the show. We appreciate all your Grizzlies knowledge. Be sure to follow Keith on Twitter at FastBreakBreak. You can also just go listen to his shows. Just great NBA content. Fast Break Breakfast, Grits and Grind, all part of Grind City Media. Keith, thanks so much, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, so we are done with the Grizzlies, which means it's time once again to spin the wheel of fandom and find out who we will be following for the next 2 weeks. We've still got 9 teams on the wheel. It'll be very interesting when we get down to the bottom 2, I just realized.
There's some
Because then we're
teams.
Okay.